So with the wet into wet technique, we're going to paint a realistic looking leaf. And to start with, you always want to work with the lightest color first. So I'm going to dull down my yellow by adding in some purple that I've already got on my palette there. And with a watery mix, I'm going to just create the shape of that leaf. And then remember, purple is the complementary color for yellow, so that's why we use the complementary colors to dull each other down. So I've got my leaf shape and I pull down a little stem. And now we're going to start dropping in some of the darker colors, and this is called charging. So when you're doing charging, you are using less water and more stronger mix of your paint. And I'm going to dirty my green a little bit so it's not too bright. And now I'm just dropping in the green into the wet yellow. So if it shoots out and goes completely out of control, that means that you got too much water. And you can get a paper towel and just wipe out the excess water from your brush to keep it from doing that. So here I'm kind of pushing my greens around, but I'm keeping some of those yellows. So now as I'm building this up, the yellow is a little too pale, so I'm going to go back in and darken the yellow. And I'm going to add even more purple this time to get it a bit browner. Alright, so now I'm going to darken up these greens to go with the yellows. And I'm going to mix my green into the red, because red is a complementary color for green, so that will dull that one down and get a more earthy kind of gray-green. And everything's still moist here, so I'm just kind of pushing the pigment around and it stays soft and fuzzy. So with just the tip of the brush, I'm going to dot in a couple of those little speckles on the leaf. And then just my final darks now. And I wanted to get that highlight back in the center of the leaf where it bends. So for that, before it dries all the way, I'm going to go grab either a razor blade or a credit card, something with a hard, sharp edge. And when the paint it's still a little bit moist, you can scrape it back and get that highlight back. That wasn't hard enough. I'm going to go again a little bit more in the corner and see how the white of the paper comes back there. If it all goes back in and you end up with a dark line, that's because it was too wet. So you got to catch it before it dries, but not when it's still soaking wet. And now I let it dry completely, and I'll come back with laying down that little drop shadow there. So I mix in some of the green into the blue, so we got some of the matching colors in the shadows. And that was a little darker than I wanted, so I cleaned out my brush and soaked up the water with a paper towel, and then used that to kind of mop up some of the paint to lighten it a little bit. And give it a blot. And there you go.